Mum was checking Kipper's trainers.
Are these your toes at the end?
She asked.
Your feet have grown again. You need a new pair of trainers,
said Mum.
Go and tell Biff and Chip that we're going to the shops.
As soon as Kipper peeked into Biff's room, the magic key started to glow. It was time for an adventure. The magic took them to a forest with lots of tall trees. Biff saw a footprint in the mud.
Look at this,
she said.
It's enormous.
She put her own foot next to the footprint to compare.
What made it?
Asked Kipper.
A bear?
Bears have paws with sharp claws,
said Biff.
This footprint has toe marks.
Some people believe a mystery animal called Bigfoot lives in the woods,
said Chip.
Perhaps Bigfoot made the footprint,
Chip added.
Here is another mystery,
said Kipper.
Why is this rope here?
Biff and Chip went to check. Suddenly, a big wooden cage dropped down over the three children.
Oh no,
shouted Chip.
It's a trap.
The children tried to lift up the cage, but it was much too heavy.
Help!
Shouted Kipper.
Is anybody there?
Yes,
said Biff.
Look over there.
A huge, hairy creature was watching them. It looked interested.
That's Bigfoot,
said Chip in amazement. Bigfoot came closer.
I think he wants to help us,
said Biff. The wooden cage was not heavy for Bigfoot. He lifted it off the children easily.
We're free,
said Chip. Biff looked up at Bigfoot.
Thanks for helping us,
she said. Bigfoot seemed to smile at the children. Suddenly, they heard gruff voices.
The trap is this way,
said a man. Bigfoot looked round. Now he seemed frightened. He ran into the woods and hid. A moment later, 3 men appeared.
What are you children doing here?
One of them asked.
we're lost,
said Chip quickly.
My name is Mr. Bunkum,
said the man.
We set that trap to catch a mystery animal called Bigfoot.
Bigfoot stayed hidden and watched.
What will you do if you catch him?
Biff asked Bunkum. Bunkum smiled.
I'm going to take him all around the world in my traveling circus. People will pay lots of money to see him. He is the only Bigfoot in the world.
Bunkum gave the children a hard stare.
Have you seen Bigfoot near here?
He asked. The children did not think Bunkum's plan sounded very nice for Bigfoot. Biff, Chip, and Kipper looked at each other. They shook their heads. Chip quietly rubbed his foot over the footprint so the men would not see it.
Maybe I'll go and look for the Loch Ness Monster instead,
Bunkum said crossly. The magic key began to glow.
What's that? A magic key?
Shouted Bunkum.
People will pay lots to see that.
The children started disappearing.
Come back.
Bunkum shouted angrily. He did not know that Bigfoot was behind him, waving goodbye to the children. At home, Mum was waiting to take Kipper shopping for new trainers.
Go on then, Bigfoot,
joked Biff to her little brother.
Yummy in my tummy,
said Winnie, licking her fingers. She was sitting on the doorstep and eating turnip chips with snail sauce.
Scrummy,
said Winnie, stuffing lots of chips into her mouth. Then Winnie's bossy sister came round the corner.
What is that rubbish you're eating, Winnie?
She said, looking down her long nose.
You should be eating good, fresh food instead of fast food like this.
How can you call snail sauce fast food?
Asked Winnie.
Anyway, I do cook fresh food for Wilbur and for me. I'll come to tea later and see for myself,
said her sister.
See you then, Winnie. Bye for now.
Winnie hurried into the kitchen.
Wilbur,
She called.
my sister is coming for tea, so we've got to cook up a feast. What shall we make?
Wilbur looked in the fridge. Meow, he said. There was lots of squid,
Good.
said Winnie.
Squid and jelly for starters. Then for the main course, we'll have bat burgers. If there were lots of bats, we can make Battenberg cake too.
Wilbur opened the bat cupboard door. Meow, said Wilbur sadly,
Knotted noodles, Wilbur.
said Winnie.
There's only one diddly little bat in there.
Squeak! The diddly little bat looked at Winnie with his diddly batty eyes. Meow, asked Wilbur. He wanted to catch the diddly little bat,
Stop, Wilbur.
said Winnie.
This bat's too teeny tiny to cook. Let's go to the bat cave and get some big ones to mash into burgers.
Winnie and Wilbur flew off on the broom, but Winnie couldn't sit still. Jiggle, wriggle went the broom. Swirl. Meow, said Wilbur crossly,
Sorry, Wilbur,
said Winnie.
but there's something itching and scratching down my front.
Winnie pulled out something small and black from inside her dress.
Howling hats.
She said.
It's that deadly bat.
The diddly bat trembled in her fingers,
Ah,
said Winnie, suddenly going soppy.
it just wants to go home to the bat cave. Never mind, diddly bat. You can come with us.
She said. Humph, said Wilbur. He wasn't going to get soppy over a bat. They parked the broom outside the bat cave. Winnie found some nets for catching the bats,
Abracadabra.
said Winnie, to make her wand glow brightly. Winnie and Wiz could see bats clinging to all the walls. Squeak, 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 went the bats.
Pongy wongy woo.
Said Winnie.
These bats smell lovely.
Wilbur licked his lips. Swish, he went with his net. Swish, swish, went Winnie's wand.
I've caught a bat.
She said. The diddly bat climbed up Winnie's shoulder. Squeak,
Oh,
said Winnie.
that bat is the diddly bat's mummy. He doesn't want her to be cooked in a burger.
So Winnie let the bat go. Swish, swish, swat. She caught another bat,
This one is as fat as a flump dumpling.
said Winnie. Then Winnie noticed that it was rubbing its eyes.
Oh no, this fat bat's crying.
Squeak, went the diddly bat.
Lumping fish cakes.
said Winnie.
Is this fat bat your grandpa, Diddly Bat? It seems like every bat in the whole cave is part of your family.
Squeak! Went the diddly bat again. Winnie put down her net.
Oh, I give up.
She said.
The Diddly Bat's my friend, so I can't eat his family. I shall make my sister a starter, and that'll have to do. Let's go, Wilbur.
Winnie and Wilbur didn't spot the diddly bat and his family following them into the kitchen,
Aha. Bottled flies.
said Winnie.
Here's a packet of sun-dried lice too. Get out the pans, Wilbur. Our guests will be here in 5 sakes of cockroaches bottom.
Ring! Winnie! Yelled the doorbell.
Oh no. She's here already.
Said Winnie. Winnie opened the door, and there stood her sister. She had her enormous nose in the air, sniffing.
What can you smell?
Asked Winnie, a bit worried.
Not a thing.
Said her sister.
You haven't done any cooking, have you, Winnie? I just knew it.
But just then, a sizzle sound came from the kitchen. A wonderful smell crept around the corner and up Winnie's sister's nose.
Oh,
She said as she stepped into the kitchen.
Wilbur is cooking, Winnie. Who's that helping him? Is it a bat?
Said Winnie.
that's my little Diddly Bat. And those other bats are his family.
The bats were all helping Wilbur, stirring and chopping and fetching,
What are we going to eat?
said Winnie's sister.
It does smell rather good.
Winnie peeked into the pans.
It's fly fritters with a rice sprinkles.
Very nice.
Said her sister. And it was. At last, Winnie's sister went home. The bats all hung themselves upside down in Winnie's room. Soon they were asleep,
Night, night. Mind the cats don't bite.
she said. She kissed the little diddly bat on the nose.
It looks fun to sleep upside down. I think I'll join you.
Winnie hung herself from the curtain pole so that she could sleep like a bat too. Wilbur slept upside down as well, until he fell off. Flump. Meow.
One morning, a letter arrived for Drusilla. It said, "The Sandwich, the Black Beach Hut, Mudley-on-Sea." Drusilla opened it up.
That's odd.
She said to her cat Peg,
Where's a letter? There's only a crayon in here.
The crayon jumped out of the hand. It started writing on the wall.
Dear Drusilla, I'm fed up with the city. I fancy a holiday. The sea air will do me good. I will drive on the east wind. You old friend, Hagbag.
Oh no, not Hagbag.
Groaned Drusilla.
I hope she doesn't want to stay for long.
All of a sudden, there was a puff of blue smoke. Hagbag had arrived. She was a large witch with 3 chins and purple hair.
Drusilla, you old witch.
Cackled Hagbag. She gave Drusilla a hug that nearly squeezed the life out of her. Hagbag plumped herself down in Drusilla's rocking chair. Peg leaped off with a yowl.
Scram cat.
She turned to Drusilla.
Now, what's your breakfast, ducky? I'm starving.
Hagbag sat at the table while Drusilla waited on her. She ate 10 slices of toast and a whole jar of jellyfish jam. She drank 6 mugs of seaweed tea and gobbled all the crab cakes. At last, Hagbag smacked her lips and said that she was full up.
Now, Ducky, what do you do for fun around here?
When I watch the cinemas, the cowboy is on.
Cowboy works with cowgirl. How can you stand for bullseye?
I'm afraid you'll be bored. It's so quiet by the sea.
Perfect. I need a good rest. I may stay for a week.
Drusilla turned pale. Peg slunk out of the door with her sulk.
A whole week? How can they stand a whole week of Hagbag?
Hagbag spent the next day lazing on the beach. She borrowed Drusilla's swimsuit. Somehow she squeezed herself into it. She settled in Drusilla's deck hair. Then she read Drusilla's new spell book.
Well, this is a treat. I'm going to like it here.
But after 5 minutes, Hagbag was hungry.
Do you know what I fancy? A nice ice cream. Be a poppet and get me one, Drusilla.
Drusilla walked all the way to the shops. She carried back 2 dripping ice creams. 1 for Hagbag and 1 for herself.
2? You are spoiling me.
She grabbed both the ice creams. She started to eat them. Drusilla and Peg watched there hungrily. Hagbag didn't even offer them a lick. All day, Drusilla fetched and carried things for Hagbag. Every time she sat down, Hagbag would think of something else.
Got any sun cream, Ducky? Or did I hear you say tea?
By the end of the day, Drusilla was worn out. It was relief when Hagbag said she was ready for bed. She started to climb the stairs to Drusilla's bedroom.
Where are you going?
To bed, of course, Ducky.
I have a craft, but I've only got 1 hammock.
Began Drusilla.
Don't worry, that'll do me fine. Night-night, Drussy. Sleep tight.
Hagbag got into Drusilla's pyjamas. She climbed into Drusilla's hammock. Soon the whole hut shook with the sound of her horrible snoring. Drusilla put her fingers in her ears. Peg hid his head under the cushion. It was no good. There was no chance of any sleep with Hagbag in the house.
That settles it, Peg. We've got to get rid of her. The question is, how?
Drusilla's spell book lay on the table. Peg leaped on top of it. He mioed loudly.
Of course, you clever cat. We'll make a spell to drive Hagbag away.
Drusilla looked through her spell book. Could she turn Hagbag into the large brown rat? Maybe not. Hagbag might move in forever and nibble all her food. Drusilla went on turning the pages. At last, she found the spell she was looking for.
Perfect. We'll make her think she's got the squoozles. I know just how to do it.
All night, Drusilla was mixing something in her big pot and singing her spell. Next morning, Hagbag came downstairs. There was a surprise waiting for her. On the table was the cake. It looked like any ordinary cake, except that it had green spots.
A cake? For me?
She took a closer look.
Should it be green?
Oh yes, but I'll eat it myself if you don't want it.
No, I'll try a little piece.
She cut herself a fat slice and took a bite. She said, with her mouth full.
Not bad.
She cut herself a second slice even bigger than the first. That went into her mouth. So did a third slice and a fourth. Before long, only a few crumbs were left on the plate. Hagbag had scoffed the whole cake, just as Drusilla knew she would. In the cake was Drusilla's spell, and now the magic started to do its work. Hagbag's face turned yellow, then it went a deep shade of pink. More and more spots started to appear on her face. Large green spots, like those on their cake. Soon she was covered in spots. Hagbag pulled out a tissue. She saw her hand.
Spots!
She shrieked in horror.
I've got spots.
She sat down.
I don't feel too well, Ducky.
Drusilla tried not to smile. She gave Hagbag a mirror so that she could see herself.
I'm afraid you've got the squoozles.
The squoozles? Odds frogs. What's that?
Nasty spots. Your legs go wobbly and your knees go knobbly. I expect you want to go straight home.
Home? But I'll be all on my own at home.
But...
No, I'm staying here till I'm better. You can look after me.
Hagbag crept upstairs. Drusilla put a hand to her head. What had she done? Her spell had made things much worse. A healthy Hagbag was bad enough. A Hagbag who thought she was ill will be unbearable. At first, Hagbag said she was too hot. Drusilla opened all the windows. Soon, Hagbag was too cold. She wanted the windows closed. Her stomach ached, her toes tingled, and her head throbbed. The sun was too bright, the hammock was too hard. The seagulls made too much noise. One minute she was hungry, the next she wanted a drink. So it went on all day. Hagbag gave orders and Drusilla dashed up and down the stairs. At long last Drusilla heard the sound of snoring. Hagbag had fallen asleep. Drusilla crept downstairs. She had never felt so tired in her life. She hadn't even had time to eat a meal. She cleared Hagbag's dirty plates from the table. One of the plates had a few crumbs left on it. Drusilla hungrily tipped them into her mouth. She sat down in her chair and closed her eyes. The crumbs in her mouth tasted like cake. Sleepily, she remembered what kind of cake it was. Green spotted cake, the cake that she'd baked for Hagbag. In the morning, Hagbag bounded downstairs.
I'm better, Ducky. The spots have gone. I may even stay for 2 weeks.
She broke off and stared at Drusilla. Her mouth had dropped open.
What's the matter, Hagbag?
The spots. The squoozles.
They're all gone. You're better.
Not me. You, Drusilla. You've caught the squoozles. Let's check.
Drusilla looked in her mirror. It was true. Her face was covered in bright green spots. The crumbs of cake she'd eaten had been enough to work the spell. Hagbag backed away from her.
You poor old thing. What a shame. I'd love to stay longer, but those squoozles are obviously catching.
She grabbed her bag.
Bye, Drussie. I must fly.
There was a puff of blue smoke. Hagbag vanished as suddenly as she'd arrived. Drusilla went upstairs to her very own bedroom. She climbed into her very own hammock. She didn't mind having spots. They would only last a day. All that mattered was that Hagbag had gone. Peg jumped up onto her lap. He started to purr. Drusilla smiled. It was going to be a quiet day in Mudley-on-Sea.
Some twins are hard to tell apart. Ben and Claire weren't those sorts of twins. Ben had freckles, Claire didn't. Ben had fair hair, Claire had brown hair. Claire liked to paint her nails pink. Ben didn't. It was easy to tell the twins apart. Their mum often said they were totally different, like chalk and cheese. Claire thought Ben was the cheese. The twins were like most brothers and sisters. Sometimes they played together, and sometimes they argued. But there was one thing they agreed upon: competitions. They were both crazy about competitions. It was amazing where you could find competitions if you looked. They were in magazines and comics. They were on cereal packets, tubes of toothpaste, and bags of crisps. Ben and Claire often entered 6 or 7 competitions in 1 week. Ben said that if you entered enough competitions, someday you had to win. It was only a matter of time. As it turned out, he was right. One Saturday afternoon, the twins were sitting in the kitchen. They had a big pile of competitions in front of them. At that moment, they were puzzling over a competition to win a shiny red sports car. The twins couldn't drive, but they thought it would be fun to learn. Their mum came over to the table and dropped 2 Wibbles chocolate bars in front of them.
There we are,
She said.
to help you think. Thanks, Mom.
Cried the twins. Both of them grabbed the chocolate bars at the same time. They started to tear them open. Luckily, Ben spotted something before it was too late.
Wait,
He said,
there's some writing on this wrapper. It's a competition.
Claire looked and saw he was right. In big red letters on the wrapper, it said, "Win your weight in chocolate. See inside." The twins stared at each other, speechless with excitement. This was the competition of their dreams. Both of them were mad about chocolate. If they had their way, they would have had chocolate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Who needed a sports car? This was a competition they had to enter. Each of them tried to imagine their own weight in chocolate. One thing was for sure, it would be a lot. Carefully, Claire peeled off the wrapper and read the rules of the competition.
In no more than 10 words, say why Wibble's chocolate is the best.
She read,
That's easy.
said Ben.
It's yummy. That's only 2 words.
Claire wrinkled her nose.
It's got to be clever, Ben. You can't just say it's yummy. Anyway, Scrummy sounds better.
Okay, it's yummy and scrummy.
Said Ben.
That's good. It rhymes.
Said Claire.
Wait a minute.
She chewed on her pencil, thinking.
It's yummy and scrummy, and it's going in my tummy.
She laughed. That sounded good. They wrote it down on the entry form.
10 words exactly.
Counted Claire.
Perfect.
Next, you had to write your name and address and your weight.
Usually they took turns to enter their names for a competition. Ben said it was his turn,
No,
argued Claire.
your name was going on the sports car competition, so it's my turn.
I don't want it on that. I want my name on this one.
Said Ben stubbornly.
All right, I know how to decide.
Said Claire. She gave a sly smile.
We'll see who is the heaviest.
What's that got to do with it?
Asked Ben.
It's obvious, noodle.
Said Claire.
You win your weight in chocolate, so the more you weigh, the more chocolate you get.
Oh,
Said Ben.
I never thought of that.
They both raced upstairs to the bathroom. Ben got there first and jumped on the scales. He weighed 22 kilos, but when Claire stood on the scales, she weighed 25 kilos,
Cheater, you knew all along.
said Ben. Claire just pulled a face. In the end, it was her name and weight that went on the entry form. They sealed up the envelope and took it to the postbox,
I'll post it.
said Ben.
Let's both post it.
Said Claire.
Maybe it will bring us luck.
They both took one corner of the envelope and pushed it into the slot.
Do you think we'll win?
Ben asked,
There's always a chance.
said Claire. They'd said that lots of times before. They'd entered hundreds of competitions, but they'd never won anything. except a measly set of felt tip pens,
Say we did win.
said Ben.
We'd share the prize, wouldn't we? I mean, we've entered together.
Of course.
Said Claire. But as she said it, for some reason, she crossed her fingers behind her back. The weeks went by and the twins forgot all about the Wibbles chocolate bar competition. Then, one Friday evening, the doorbell rang. Ben opened the door to find a smartly dressed woman outside. Behind her stood a man with a camera. The woman gave Ben a friendly smile.
Hello, does Claire Mims live here?
She asked.
Yes.
Said Ben.
She's my sister.
Lucky you,
said the smiling woman.
Can you get her for me?
She's won a prize. It took Ben about 3 seconds flat to dash upstairs and fetch Claire. His mind was racing. He tried to remember which competitions they'd entered recently. What kind of prize had Claire won? Mum joined them at the door to see what was happening.
My name's Diane. I'm from Wibble,
the smart lady began.
Wibble?
Said Claire.
The chocolate makers.
Yes, and I'm delighted to say you've won our competition, Claire. We loved your slogan. How did it go?
It's yummy and scrummy, and it's going in my tummy.
Shouted Ben and Claire together.
That was it,
said Diane.
Now, if you'd all stand back, we'll bring your prize in.
A large, red Wibbles chocolate van stood outside their house. 2 men were unloading something from the back. It was the biggest chocolate bar the twins had ever seen. It was huge, immense, almost as big as a door. The giant Wibble bar was wrapped in shiny red paper. The delivery men wheeled it into the house on a trolley.
Oh, my goodness,
said Mum, goggling at the Whopper bar.
It's bigger than me,
shouted Ben.
I won, I won, I won,
shouted Claire, dancing round the room.
It weighs 25 kilos. Exactly your weight, Claire,
said Diane.
If you'll just stand next to it, we'll take a photo for the newspaper.
Claire stood with one arm round her prize and a huge grin on her face. Ben felt he should have been in the photo too, but he wasn't asked. At last, everyone went away and the 3 of them were left alone. Claire put the giant Wibble bar on the sofa. They all looked at it. No one spoke for a while.
Well, what are you going to do with it?
Asked their mum at last.
That's easy.
Grinned Ben.
We're going to eat it, aren't we, Claire?
Claire said nothing. After supper, Claire counted the squares of the chocolate bar. She felt them through the wrapper. There were 72. Claire worked out that would last her about 10 weeks if she ate 1 square a day. Of course, if she shared the bar with Ben, it would only last 5 weeks. That was the trouble. She wasn't sure that she wanted to share her prize.
Let's have a piece,
said Ben eagerly.
No,
said Claire. She wasn't ready to tear open the shiny red wrapper. It looked too perfect. That was the trouble with Ben. He would never save anything. He'd rip off all the paper right away. Then he'd stuff himself with so much chocolate that he'd probably be sick.
It's not up to you,
said Ben,
It is.
replied Claire,
It's my prize.
It's mine as well.
said Ben.
It's our prize. You promised to share.
Maybe I changed my mind.
said Claire. She hadn't meant to say that. It had just come out. She knew she wasn't being fair, but Ben was starting to annoy her. This was her prize, the only prize she'd ever won in her life. She wasn't going to let her brother spoil it. Ben screwed up his face like a baby.
That's not fair. You promised.
He shouted.
If you must know, I had my fingers crossed, so it doesn't count.
Replied Claire.
Anyway, it's got my name on the label.
It could just as easily be mine.
Argued Ben.
But it isn't.
Hissed Claire.
It's my prize and they gave it to me. I can do what I like with it.
She grabbed the giant bar and dragged it out of the room.
I'll get you back for this.
Ben yelled after her. It took a lot of effort to get the bar upstairs and into her bedroom, but in the end, Claire managed it. Claire didn't come out of her room all evening. She laid the giant wibble bar on the floor. She was feeling a bit guilty about Ben. Maybe she ought to give in and let him have a piece of her chocolate. But that meant tearing open the shiny wrapper. Claire wasn't ready to do that yet. She liked to save her sweets for the right moment. Later, she told herself. She would let Ben have a piece. Later, but not yet. If she ate just one small piece a day, she could make it last for a long, long time. Ben, meanwhile, was sulking in his room. He wasn't speaking to his sister. When he met Claire going into the bathroom, he glared at her silently. Claire brushed her teeth and got ready for bed. She went to sleep with the giant wibble bar on the floor next to her bed. In the middle of the night, she woke up. She'd been having a terrible nightmare. In her dream, Ben sneaked into her room while she was asleep. Then he ate all the chocolate.
I told you I'd get you back.
He smiled, with chocolate smeared all round his mouth. Claire woke up in a cold panic. She switched on her bedside lamp. To her relief, the giant wibble bar was still on the floor, unopened. She got out of bed and picked it up. After her nightmare, she wanted to hide her prize in a safe place. She opened up her wardrobe. The wardrobe was jammed with clothes and shoes. There wasn't room for a king-size chocolate bar. Claire sat down on her bed. She looked around the room. Between her bed and the wall, she saw a narrow gap. It looked just wide enough to hide a giant chocolate bar. When she tried it, the bar slid neatly into the gap. It was wedged between the bed and the radiator. Perfect! Once Claire had replaced her bed covers, you wouldn't know that anything was there. Back in bed, she smiled to herself. Her treasure was safe. Ben would never think of looking in her secret hiding place. In the morning, Claire woke up. She looked on the floor. Then she remembered where she'd hidden the giant bar last night. She felt hungry. Should she have some now, or save it until after school? Perhaps she'd just steal the tiniest piece now to see what it tasted like. Downstairs, she could hear her mum and her brother in the kitchen. It was safe to get the bar out. The more she thought about the chocolate, the more she longed to taste it. She imagined peeling back the red wrapper. She She imagined the snap the chocolate would make when she broke off the first piece. Would it taste like ordinary milk chocolate? Or would it be better, sweeter and creamier? Claire felt down the side of the bed with her hand. Instead of the large, solid bar, her hand touched the hot radiator. A horrible thought crossed her mind. She leapt out of bed. Her bare feet felt sticky. Looking down, she saw the carpet was swimming in something thick and brown. There was a strong, sweet smell in the room. A smell like melted chocolate. Claire got down on her hands and knees and felt under the bed. Her hand came out coated with a brown, gooey mess. Under the bed, she could see the bar's shiny red wrapper crumpled and empty. Chocolate ran down the radiator and oozed in brown waves across the floor.
No,
wailed Claire.
My beautiful prize. Oh, no, no.
Mum and Ben heard her cries and ran upstairs. When they burst into the room, Claire was still on her hands and knees. She was trying to scoop the melted chocolate back into its wrapper.
Claire, what's the matter? Are you all right?
Asked her mum.
Ugh,
said Ben.
what's all this stuff on the floor?
My chocolate bar.
Moaned Claire.
It melted on the radiator.
What?
Said her mum. She looked down in horror at the carpet swimming in chocolate.
Claire, what on earth made you leave it by a hot radiator?
It wasn't hot last night,
whined Claire.
I just wanted to hide it from Ben.
Ben looked down at his sister. She had chocolate all over her pajamas, chocolate sticking to her fingers, chocolate in her hair, and a big blob on the end of her nose. He burst out laughing.
I thought you wanted to eat it,
He grinned.
not wear it.
Later that day, Claire knocked on Ben's bedroom door. Ben was on his bed reading a comic. He didn't look up. Claire took something out of her pocket. She dropped it into his lap. It was a chocolate bar, a Wibbles chocolate bar.
I know it's not the same,
said Claire.
but I just wanted to say sorry.
Ben slowly tore off the wrapper.
I suppose we could always share it.
He said. Claire smiled, but Ben wasn't looking. He was staring at the wrapper.
Wait a minute.
He said.
There's another competition on here.
Wilbur was asleep on the front doorstep when Winnie rushed up.
Oh, Wilbur,
She said.
I've had a terrible morning. Mrs. Palmer asked me to help the children learn their spellings, but I thought she said spells. I showed them how to magic up a dragon. It was only a little one, but now Mrs. P is crossed with me. The dragon set off all the fire alarms.
Wilbur opened one eye. He looked at Winnie. Then he closed the eye again.
Let's play a game, Wilbur.
Said Winnie.
Take my mind off things, that's what a good pet would do.
Wilbur arched his back and yawned.
You as lazy as a lizard.
Said Winnie.
Come on, let's play tennis, Wilbur.
Winnie rushed indoors. She opened the cupboard under the stairs, and out fell everything. First, Winnie tugged at something grey and tatty. Then she pulled out something that looked like a spoon tied up with string, and something else that looked like a mouldy old apple. She popped off to change, and then skipped back outside.
What do you think of my outfit, Wilbur?
she asked. Wilbur just put his paws over his face. Winnie bounced the ball all around Wilbur. Bounce, bounce,
Come on.
she said.
You're no fun, Wilbur. I'll have to use magic if you won't play.
Winnie pointed her wand at the racket and ball.
Abracadabra, abracadabra, abracadabra,
she shouted. In an instant, there were 3 tennis rackets. The rackets were hitting balls at Winnie. Winnie waved her own racket all over the place, but she missed every ball.
Off. Get off. Stop.
She shouted.
Newt's kneecaps. Nobody's nice to me today, not even my wand.
Winnie threw her wand as far as she could. A moment later, the wand was back in the mouth of a dog. The dog came bounding up to Winnie. It was Scruff, who belonged to Jerry the Giant, who lived next door to Winnie. Scruff dropped the wand at Winnie's feet. Then he grinned up at her and wagged his tail.
Good boy, Scruff.
Said Winnie.
Do you want me to throw it again?
Winnie threw the wand again, and again, and again, and each time Scruff dashed back with it. Winnie threw the ball too.
Fetch, Scruff,
she said.
Clever boy. Did you see that Wilbur? Isn't he a clever dog?
Meow, said Wilbur. He didn't sound very impressed. Soon it was lunchtime, and they all went into the kitchen. Wilbur winked at Scruff and pointed at a packet of Kipper biscuits. He nodded towards Winnie. Scruff grinned and nodded his head and wagged his tail. He took the biscuit box in his mouth and gave it to Winnie.
For me,
said Winnie, not really looking.
Thank you, Scruff.
Winnie took a biscuit from the box and popped it into her mouth.
You. Pev.
Winnie spat the biscuit out.
Yuck. I hate Kipper biscuits.
Scruff hid under the table. Wilbur grinned. Then he put all Winnie's favourite lunch snacks on a tray. Crispy worms, a nettle sandwich, a cup of slug smoothie.
Yummy,
said Winnie.
You're cleverer than Scruff Wilbur. You know just what I like.
But Scruff stuck out a leg and trip went Wilbur. Crash went the tray. Splat went the smoothie, and crispy worms fell all over Winnie.
Oh, Wilbur, you're as clumsy as a centipede on skates,
shouted Winnie. Wilbur and Scruff stuck their tongues out at each other. Suddenly, Winnie had a brilliant idea.
Of course,
said Winnie.
Cats are clever and dogs are obedient. I want a pet that's both of those things. So what I need is a cog.
Yow! Went Scruff. Meow! Went Wilbur. They both raced for the door. They both wanted to be the first one to escape outside. But before they got there, Winnie said,
Abracadabra.
Magic whirled and swirled, and suddenly there was a cog.
Perfect,
said Winnie. But the cog was not perfect. It ran up the curtains and chewed them to bits. Meow! Chew, chew, munch, chew, munch. The cog jumped down and stood at Winnie's feet.
Be a good cog,
said Winnie, but the cog hissed at her. Then did a wee on her foot.
Yuck. Bad cog,
said Winnie. The cog jumped out of the window into the garden. It began to dig.
Stop,
shouted Winnie. The cog took no notice. It rolled in the mud. Then it sat and licked the mud off its legs. It jumped up at Winnie with muddy paws and scratchy claws.
Get down,
said Winnie.
Naughty boy. Wilbur, save me.
But of course, Wilbur wasn't there.
Oh dear,
said Winnie.
I wanted to mix the best bits of a cat with the best bits of a dog. This cog is the worst bits of both. Where's my wand? I want my Wilbur back.
Winnie saw her wand on the ground. The cog saw it too, and it began to run towards it, teeth snip-snapping.
It's my wand,
shouted Winnie, and she leaped to grab it.
Abracadabra.
She waved the wand just as the cog's teeth were about to snap it in two. Suddenly, Wilbur was back, looking shocked but pleased. And Scruff was back too. He ran away down the drive.
Scruff,
boomed a big voice. It was Jerry the giant. Scruff jumped around his owner, wagging his tail and woofing.
my dear old Scruff.
Laughed Jerry.
Wondered where you'd got to. You're the best dog in the world.
Winnie smiled and picked Wilbur up.
Well, if Scruff's the best dog, you're definitely the best cat. Better than that cog any day. Give us a kiss, Wilbur.
Wilf had come round to play.
Wilma's got a netball match tomorrow, so my mum is taking me to Huntley Hall.
He told Biff.
It's a stately home. Do you and Chip want to come, too?
Biff was not sure.
Thanks, Wilf, but stately homes aren't very exciting, are they?
This one is,
said Wilf. He pulled out a book from his bag. It was all about ghosts.
Look,
he said, turning to the right page.
It says here that once, a long time ago, someone actually saw ghosts at Huntley Hall.
Wilf grinned.
What if we saw a ghost there?
Just then, Chip came into the room.
What's that about ghosts?
He said.
Wilf thinks there might be ghosts at Huntley Hall,
explained Biff.
but there are no such thing as ghosts, are there?
Chip thought about this.
I don't think so,
he said. Just then, he noticed a familiar light in the corner. The key was glowing.
I hope this doesn't mean we're going somewhere spooky,
said Chip. The magic took the children to the grounds of a big house at night.
This place looks a bit spooky,
said Chip.
It's Huntley Hall.
Said Wilf.
I recognize it from the picture.
It's cold and windy out here,
said Biff.
Should we see if anyone is in?
Before she could knock on the front door, Wilf gave it a gentle push.
It's open.
He said.
Let's have a look around.
It was dark and quiet inside the house.
Actually, this place is very spooky,
whispered Chip.
Maybe that's why we're here.
Said Wilf.
So we can see the ghosts of Huntley Hall.
There's no such things as ghosts,
said Biff quietly.
I'm sure that.
She stopped.
Hold on. What's that noise?
A soft, scratching sound was coming from behind a closed door.
What do you think is making that noise?
Whispered Chip. Biff held one finger to her lips as she went to the door. She reached for the handle and slowly turned it. The children stepped into a large room lit by oil lamps. There was a piece of paper on the table and a chair in the back. There was no sign of anybody. Chip picked up the paper on the table.
It's a drawing of those flowers over there.
There, he said.
But who made it?
I know.
Said Wilf.
A ghost must have done it. The ghost of Huntley Hall.
The children jumped when a voice said,
I am not a ghost.
A boy stood up from a hiding place behind the desk.
I was sketching those flowers,
he said. The boy said his name was Henry.
Why were you hiding behind the desk?
Asked Biff.
I heard a noise in the hall and got worried.
Henry explained.
I want to be an artist.
He went on.
But my father thinks that's silly. He gets cross when I sketch. So I wait until everybody is asleep.
You're a good artist, too.
I've got an idea,
said Biff.
Why don't you sketch the three of us?
Henry smiled.
That would be nice,
he said. Wilf put his hands on his hips and stuck his chin out.
How's this?
He joked. Henry pointed to the fireplace.
Perhaps you should just all stand over there,
he said. He took a fresh piece of paper and began to sketch. Biff, Chip, and Wilf concentrated hard on not moving a muscle. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew through the open window. The curtains billowed and knocked one of the lamps over. It fell.
It's on fire.
The other children turned to see the flame catch at the bottom of the long curtain.
Quick,
said Biff.
We have to wake up everybody in the house.
The children ran to the hall and began to shout.
Wake up, fire!
They heard footsteps clumping, and then a big man in a nightshirt raced down the stairs.
Where's the fire? What's going on, Henry?
He demanded. Henry pointed through the open door to the study. Henry's father took a deep breath. Then he shouted in a booming voice.
Servants, we need water in the study right now.
The children could hear more footsteps and shouts all around the house. Moments later, several servants appeared. They were carrying buckets, pans, and anything else that would hold water. When they threw the water onto the fire, it let out an angry-sounding hiss. At last, the fire was out.
Who left the window open and then all lamp lit?
Asked Henry's father with a scowl.
I believe you did, dear,
said Henry's mother from the stairs. It was only then that Henry's father noticed Biff, Chip, and Wilf.
Who are you three?
He demanded.
What are you doing here?
Luckily, the magic key had begun to glow in Biff's pocket. Before they disappeared, Chip just had a chance to give Henry a final word of advice.
Don't give up art. You're really good.
The last thing they saw was Henry smiling. The next instant, the three children were back in Biff's bedroom.
It's a pity we didn't see any ghosts,
said Biff. They all agreed that it had been an exciting adventure anyway. The next day, Biff and Chip went with Wilf and his mum to Huntley Hall. Wilf's mum was happy to see how interested the three children were in the hall's history. The tour guide led them into the study.
200 years ago, a fire started in this room.
The guide said.
It might have destroyed the house,
but 3 mysteries strangers warn the Huntley family just in time. Nobody knew who they were, but it was lucky they were there.
Continued the guide.
Then they just vanished.
The children looked at each other in surprise.
We didn't meet any ghosts.
Whispered Wilf.
I think we were the ghosts.
In the next room, the tour guide talked about people who had lived in the house.
Henry Huntley became a successful artist.
She said.
Here's Henry's painting of his father, who claimed to be his biggest fan.
There were several of Henry's paintings and sketches in the room.
Look at this one,
said Wolf's mum.
it looks a bit like you 3.
The children just smiled, remembering the night when Henry drew their picture.
Maybe she has the power to speak with her mind.
It's weird. Maybe there are buttons we didn't press. Let's see.
Isn't that our house?
Yes, and the other points are our cities.
Oh, how do I wear the bow?
We are the only ones that can help. But how? Do you remember what happened after the Pinky Promise? I think she needs more energy. Let's share it with her. Come on.
Then with all our strength, let's say,
anywhere and everywhere, Pinky Promise will guide us.